Hi everyone. In this video, we're going to talk about how to find the weighted mean by hand. You can see in our spreadsheet, we have an example problem and it says find the weighted mean of the percent in favor of a new law. In the data table, we have 4 districts, A, B, C, and D. We're given the percent in favor of the new law for each district, and then the number of votes that were counted in that district. To find the weighted mean, we learned in class that the formula for the weighted mean is the sum, we use that symbol sigma, of the weights times the data values divided by the sum of the weights. The data values are the thing that we're finding the average or the mean for. So when we're reading the question, we want to identify what we're finding the mean for. That data is going to be our X values, and then the other column is going to be our weights. In this case, we are told that we want to find the weighted mean of percent in favor. So that middle column, percent in favor, is going to be my X values, and I'm going to copy those down. I'm going to make a note up here that these values represent percents so that when I write my answer, I know that this quantity is also a percent. I'm finding a weighted mean for a percentage. All right, the next column we need are the weights. That must be the number of votes that were counted in each district. So 51,100, 52,152, 101,899, 21,047, and 397,231. Looking at this formula, I know that I'm going to need the sum of this weight column. I'm going to need to add down this column. I also know from the numerator of that fraction, I need the weight times the X value. And then I'm going to want to add down that column to get the sum of the weight times X. So before I start calculating, I'm going to multiply across this table and do W times X. This is something that we can use a calculator for. I'm going to pull my TI-84 up here so that we can do that really quick. So 59 times 52, 152, assuming that did I write that down correctly? Yes, I did. So 307,6968. For the next one, we have 65 times 101,899. So 662,3435. The next one is 32 times 21,047. So 673,504. And then the very last one's going to be the big one, 86 times 397,231. 341 61866. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to add down those second two columns. We're going to add the weights together to find the denominator of our fraction. We're going to add down the weights times the data values to find the numerator of that fraction. When I add down that middle column, I get 572,392. I add down that second column. I get 445, 35773. 44,535,773. We then divide the W times X by the W. So our weighted mean, I'm going to shorten this to WM, going to be that big long number, 445,35773 divided by 572,329. On our calculator, we're going to do that division really quick. And we get 77.8 as our answer, 77.8. I'm writing it to the tenths place because our raw data, our X values, are whole numbers. Anything I calculate from those should be rounded to one more decimal place. I'm also going to write this as 77.8% because we calculated the weighted mean for a bunch of percentages. Our answer must also be a percent. So the weighted mean, or the percent of votes that are in favor of a new law for these 4 districts, is 77.8%. You will notice that we had 2 percentages that were smaller than that, one of them by a lot, right? We had a 59% and a 32%. But if you look at which districts those votes came from, the smaller in favor percentages came from the districts with the smaller number of people voting. The districts with more people, their percentage is weighted more heavily because more people voted that election, which means there's a larger number of just raw people who voted in favor of that bill. All right. So that is how we find the weighted mean by hand. If you have questions on what you just saw, let me know. Otherwise, I will see you in the next video.